just realizing how much was going to landfill made quite the impression on me. At the FABSCRAP warehouse, we receive about 7,000 pounds of textiles per week. What things can we change? What things can we improve, and what things can we do better?
Hello and welcome back, everyone. Today we have a very special guest joining from the US, Camille Tagle, the co-founder and creative director of FABSCRAP. FABSCRAP is a remarkable not-for-profit organization with a mission to rescue textile waste, diverting it from landfills and promoting sustainability in the fashion industry. Camille and her team at FABSCRAP have been instrumental in revolutionizing the way we think about textile waste. Their innovative approach not only helps reduce environmental impact, but also raises awareness about the importance of responsible waste management in the fashion world. FABSCRAP is more than just a recycling resource. It's a beacon of inspiration for individuals and businesses alike, showing us that small actions can lead to big changes. Today, we're excited to hear from Camille about FABSCRAP's journey and the impact they've made so far. Welcome, Camille, to our podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
So let's get started. Could you share with us the journey of FABSCRAP and what inspired you to start this brand?
Absolutely. I mean, it's definitely been quite a unique journey, I have to say. I was an evening wear designer, so cocktail dresses, gowns, a little bit of bridal, and admittedly, evening wear is a very one-time use, maybe like most wasteful type of garment. That to me always seemed, I don't know, definitely a waste, but also just criminal almost, because so much work went into these beautiful garments. So when I was designing, having developed a lot of those fabrics and worked with those vendors and spent so much time on creating these beautiful things, just realizing how much was going to landfill made quite the impression on me. And, I started to ask myself, well, what do I actually want my long-term contribution to society, to this world to be? Do I want to continue to add to all the waste that happens in the design process? Or having some ideas and wanting to kind of give back, should I actually pivot and do something else? That kind of gave me the idea of like, okay, well, maybe I can get these fabrics that were heading towards landfill into the hands of creatives who would really benefit from it and be able to use them and extend their life. I started kind of small by sending cabs down 7th Avenue to, classes, like students full of classes or classes full of students. I started at first just like sending interns in cab rides down 7th Avenue, bringing these fabrics to their classes. And then it kind of grew to building relationships with the local schools and design schools in the area and creating events, like kind of almost like pop-up shops. And I think just hearing from the students as well about how amazed they were that all of these things were even heading to landfill, that they were able to use them, how excited they were, how much further they could take their designs because they now had access to all these materials, was a real, I think, jumping off point and something that I think just confirmed that this was a new path and something that I should really pursue. So when you think about FABSCRAP's recycling service, it's very much like how a business would sign up for cardboard or plastic recycling. They would onboard as one of our partners. They would tell us when they have textile waste to be picked up. FABSCRAP shows up at their studio or office, carts away whatever was set aside that's fabric waste, and then we would bring it into our warehouse and everything is tracked. So immediately we weigh in all the fabrics that have come into the warehouse, and then after that, then we sort them by hand with the help of volunteers. Anything that is large enough or easy to reuse, we always want to set aside for reuse and opt to continue its life. That's always going to be the most sustainable option for that fabric. And so you can kind of see behind me, we have our reuse room where then the public is able to come and shop those fabrics that we've separated for reuse. If the fabric is really, really small and let's say it's a swatch size or it's torn or it's very difficult to reuse, those we set aside for downcycling, which is shredding into shoddy. And then shoddy becomes different types of insulation.
Tell me about how difficult or easy, for that matter, was it to get the first commercial brand to say that yes, we'll partner with you and we'll give you our scrap that is produced in our in our facility.
It's been incredible that there actually has been this really eager and like earnest willingness from all the brands that we work with to sign up for our service. So one of the unique parts of our service is, of course, we try to make it as easy as possible for brands to participate. So I think solving for the issue of the logistics, being the one to come to their studio and office and pick up, or even making it super simple to where we have an online portal where they could easily request for their pickup online has been a huge component of that too. But I think there is a genuine concern in the industry of those who participate in the waste, almost like myself. A lot of people realize like how valuable the fabric is and have really wanted there to be a better solution. But it was just that FABSCRAP didn't exist until, almost 8 years ago. And so when they find out about us, it's this aha moment of like, oh my gosh, there's someone who has a solution. Finally, there's, a better way to, deal with the waste that we've created. So a lot of people are actually really excited when they find out about us. And we've had most of our brand partners actually reach out to us because either through word of mouth or maybe they had their company work with us and moved on to a different brand and want to start the service at their other brand.
So that actually leads me to my next question. How do you manage the amount of waste that you get, and what is that process like?
We are a very small team of just 15 people, and it's really incredible that we've been able to save like 1.7 million pounds of fabric from landfill. So I give such a huge shout out to the FABSCRAP team, because all of this work, all of our operations, there are people behind that, and I think that's always really important to remember is that, every yard, every pound of fabric, there is someone carrying that and moving that. So at the FABSCRAP warehouse, we receive about 7,000 pounds of textiles per week. And that's, again, every week we're receiving that much. That's quite significant. That's how we ended up totaling to 1.7 million pounds of fabric saved from landfill. And fabric is heavy. It's a significant material. And especially when there's quite a bit of volume, that weight adds up really quickly. So we have a third party that does the actual carting from the studio or office to our warehouse. But once it gets to our loading dock, that is all the FABSCRAP team lifting, hauling, using pallet jacks, using carts, and getting it to our warehouse. And then once it's received in our warehouse, the team processes all those bags by weighing every single one of them. And that's how we're able to give specialized reports to every brand that works with us on exactly how much fabric they've recycled with FABSCRAP, because we're meticulously counting every brand separately. So our volunteers use our sorting stations, and they open up those bags and they essentially determine which fabrics are suitable for reuse and which fabrics, are required for downcycling, recycling. So we teach all of our sorters how to sort accurately and what to look for. Essentially, if anything is larger than the table, and yardage or in really good condition, we always remind volunteers that is best sorted for reuse, and that would go into our reuse room so that people could shop those fabrics.
What is the percentage that ends up going to brands versus schools that you were mentioning in the beginning versus, customers who can walk in and buy just a single piece that they want?
Our reuse room is really open to anyone, and we do get all of those people coming to shop with us. I don't think we've really tracked like separately entrepreneurs and small brands from like students or other like home sewers or arts and crafts individuals. But we do have our warehouses where people can shop in person, but we also have a lot of virtual shopping as well. So we have our online store, which is very much like any e-commerce where people can kind of shop from home, check themselves out, and we ship those fabrics to them. We also do offer one-on-one custom virtual appointments. And that's been really, really fun to see because, I think as a designer, it can be really limiting when, you're trying to purchase fabric and there are really high minimums. And usually those minimums are also just almost encouraging textile waste in a way because a designer doesn't actually need all of those 5,000 yards, but then are kind of stuck to that quote.
And how have you seen the textile that you receive changing over the last 8 years? And what is it that you receive more of? Like, did you see more of sort of polyester fabrics coming in earlier, and has that reduced? Or have you been able to kind of map the trend of what sort of textiles are now being used more of, and hence that's more of the waste that you're receiving?
That's a really good question. And we have seen quite a bit here at FABSCRAP. But I'll start first by saying we have grown to 800 brands that use our service. We have brands that are luxury and high end and do runway shows. We have brands that are mass market, that are at super accessible price points. And then we, of course, have a lot of brands that sit in the middle that are kind of the better or contemporary market. Because all the brands are in those different markets, we receive then fabric from all of those different sectors. And so it usually ends up being a pretty wide spread of fabric types. Of course, over the years, the industry has leaned more towards synthetics. So naturally, those are a larger percentage of the fabrics that we receive. It was interesting because shortly after COVID, there were a lot more knits and like comfort cozy type like fabrics that we noticed. But I do think, as the years went on, we kind of saw more wovens come back in, more brighter, fun, like sequined or specialty type fabrics come back.
So tell me, is there any challenge that you face in your business that you feel like you wanna, what's the one challenge that you face in your business?
Oh my gosh. I think it's tough being a nonprofit, and also kind of bearing the weight of all of commercial textile waste. I think that there's a lot more that could be done to support, not only what we're doing at FABSCRAP, but just any initiative to combat waste and to address waste issues. There just isn't enough support. And I think that's where we're really needing to lean on education a lot more too, to explain why that support is crucial. Right now, I know everyone's been really excited about, possibilities of recycled polyester or recycled offerings. But at the end of the day, unless systems are changed and, people are moving towards more circular operations, then all of those new technologies will really just be Band-Aid fixes. So for us at FABSCRAP, the volumes continue to come in at significant amounts. And I think it's because even though we have a lot of, excitement for the recycling service that we offer, the change to circular operations has been a lot slower. And so in the meantime, we're kind of still dealing with a significant amount of waste that is occurring, but will also continue to occur if that change to circularity is not made. And so I think even just within the last 8 years, going from 100 to 800 brands, which with all of them having, their own volumes of waste, and our team not really, being not with our team also just staying at the same amount of people, that becomes a pretty heavy, like both literally and figuratively, a really heavy burden to carry. And again, as I mentioned before, like the volumes can be a little overwhelming in that way. So I think just more support from the industry. Hopefully legislation comes into play. But also support from the community is something that we always need in order to just keep doing what we do best. But yeah, I think there is definitely opportunity for that. But I think we just need to really still work on the education component as to why it's necessary.
So what's next for FABSCRAP?
Well, we are constantly trying to, evaluate our operations, see if we're working the most streamlined way possible. And so most recently, we are upgrading to a baler, which is a very exciting moment over here at FABSCRAP. I think for most people, that's, here nor there, but, for us in terms of the volumes of fabric that we receive, in the operations and transportation of sending fabrics that are ready for downcycling to our other partners, like it just makes a huge difference for us in terms of space and volume. So our baler was just purchased early last year, and is finally going to be installed soon this spring. And that will allow us to send more fabric more efficiently to our downcycling partner.
But this has been really, really fun. Do you have any last closing thoughts that you'd like to share?
I think if there's anything to leave with from this podcast is just being more mindful about all of our actions, and asking ourselves, like, what things can we change? What things can we improve, and what things can we do better? Even if it's like the example of the shopping bags, even like if everyone were to take one small thing that they could commit to be more sustainable and actually stick to it, then, I really do think there could be a lot of change and a lot of good things that could come from it.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Camille. This has been really, really fun and insightful. Thank you for doing this with us today.
Oh, absolutely. It was my pleasure. I had so much fun as well. It was really fun talking to you, and thank you for the opportunity.